Hey everyone, welcome to the Follower of One live stream. Here in a moment, we'll get Brian Conroy added on here. Well, it's nice to meet you in person or in real time anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Brian, why not take just a moment and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and where you are and what you do.
Sure. So Brian Conroy, I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I am from New Jersey, though, northern New Jersey, so kind of outside of New York City area is where I grew up. I was born in the Bronx. We moved to Pennsylvania about 13 years ago. I'm a product sales rep for a stucco and EIFS manufacturing company. I've been in construction for a long time. I did a lot of field construction work, custom home buildings for customers. I've done all sorts of things there in construction, but always has been a part of also camp ministry, church ministry things. Went to school in Minnesota, Montana, lived in Nashville for a couple of years doing Christian music business stuff.
Oh, wow.
Since we've been living here, since we've been living in Pennsylvania, I've been a product rep. And so I get to travel. My territory is Virginia to Maine to Indiana and Michigan. So kind of the whole northeast sort of territory, a little bit bigger. And really just, it's networking. I mean, it's architects, general contractors, owners, applicators in the field, job site reviews. That's kind of what I do on top of other things here locally in the church and basketball programs, whether it's Upward Basketball or another program I run. I'm also on the school board locally in town.
Wow.
So yeah, I do a lot of little things here and there.
Well, we have a couple of other members from the Lancaster area.
You do? No. I'd be remiss not to mention, though, married for 31 years with 4 children that are adults, and I have 3 grandchildren that I really enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 3 grandchildren as well. So, so very cool. Very cool. So do you recall how you heard about Follower of One?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit today, and I believe that it did all start with, so one of the biggest things that kind of has had me on this journey of just really marketplace ministry stuff in general. For a long time, I've thought this way. Back in Nashville, when I was back there in 1998 and 99, I was thinking this stuff. But I believe Dale Lush, that is with Crossworld, that connected me with Jim Lipinski, and Jim Lipinski also connected me to you to kind of point me in the directions of things of what has been going on. Now, in the recent history, I think I also maybe had heard about it once or twice at a work at worship type of conference. But I think it was really Dale that kind of had made those connection dots.
Yeah, actually, I have met both. I don't recall Dale from Crossworld, but I met a couple of other people from there that Jim introduced me to, and had met Jim and Tom in their Marketplace Impact Living Foundations course, Living on Purpose Foundations course is in Follower of One. So we've tried some of that stuff. So very cool. Yeah. And it says you actually joined. You joined back in like 2023, right?
I did. I did the first mission trip then, and that was fantastic. And I don't know where. I mean, I think a few things had come across since then, but kind of had gotten one of those other emails of like another one starting up that I just recently then did the 39th one there. So
yeah. So how did you become a Christ follower?
So it goes back to the camp ministry, back up in a camp in northern New York State called Northern Frontier Camp. It's an all Christian boys camp. Foundation has been, if you've heard of Christian Service Brigade, it was a basically type of Boy Scouts for Christians, kind of similar to Trail Life now. I would say it was more of the traditional, original Trail Life in a sense. And I had gone through friends that we just knew that invited us, and me and my brother. And I went when I was 8 years old in 1980, kind of just kept going. And when I was 12, I can remember being there at a campfire and just kind of dedicating my life to Christ. And between there at 12 to 18, thereabouts, ups and downs here and there through high school and stuff. But there at camp is where things had really drastically changed my life for sure. And then discipleship with my youth pastor from there on.
Mhm. That's very cool. So we're actually working on, I was working earlier today on, I've been working on this for too long, but I've got to get it done, a student version of the Marketplace mission trip,
Ah, yes. That would
because
be fantastic.
we want to help students, and especially like small church youth pastors and things like that, to use the Marketplace mission trip as something to get their kids engaged and paying attention to the people around them, so that we can start
Yeah.
practicing at very young age. So
Absolutely. I mean, that's a lot like, in one sense too, with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which the basketball
Mhm.
stuff that I do is kind of a part of. I fellowship with them, and what they do in schools. And I could tell you, again, I don't know where you want to go with this, but I'll tell you a story quick of my son
Okay.
and I. We were traveling. He was with me for work. He was a teenager in high school, junior, maybe a
Hmm.
senior at the time, and I'm talking to one of my customers on the phone, and I mean, the F bombs were coming out left and right. They were just all over the place. And this is just the guy. This is how he is. This is how he talks.
Hmm.
And I can hang up the phone, and I can remember my son saying, "Wow, it sounds like the hallways of school." And it was like, it clicked for me that like his life and my life are so similar because there is no difference. Like that's his work world every day from 7 to
Yes.
3, right? Like that's what he does. And so it's just we may look different because we're older and bigger and sometimes hairier or something like that. But other than that, it's the same kind of stupid and crazy that we all live in.
Yes. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me what you think about the Marketplace mission trip now that you've done it twice.
No, I love it. I mean, I think it's really a great way to really stay focused. And whether you connect with those online and jump in there and type up and your experiences and prayer requests and all that. And I definitely am one that have a little bit less time sometimes to get onto the video calls and stuff. But whether you're doing that or not, honestly, I think that there is the huge piece and benefit of just knowing that there's that background and that backbone that's supporting you in thinking through every day as a mission field every day. And to have that focus, it's like you're taking that experience of what maybe gets done out there in what we would traditionally call the mission field and bringing it home to say, no, it is the opportunities that God is going to put in front of us. And we do need to be, I'll tell you this one for me, the second one was really cool on the sensitivity to the Spirit, because you really do need to know when God puts something in front of you. He may put it in front of you to pray about or to act on, and to know which one is which is not always easy. And I will say, for me, there have been many times where I acted on things that I probably shouldn't have, but that I just needed to pray about. And there have been times I did the opposite. But I think that was really the fun part about this one, was really to just be sensitive to the Spirit of like, okay, you put this in front of me. Do you want me to pray with this person right now or not? And maybe it's no, and just walk on. But that sense of being mindful every day, whether it's through the reading, whether it was through just the video call thing or information or the video you guys put together, really, I think helps stay focused.
Yeah, I think more and more every day, it's just following and listening to the Holy Spirit and being some degree wrong and doing it again next time.
Yeah.
Each question, each interaction. I love the fact that I can screw up and not get fired. This is the only job I've ever had I can't get fired from, is following
That's
Jesus.
right.
So
Well, it's very much like, so in the basketball realm of stuff I do for kids, the slogan that we have is discipleship first.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's basketball, football, whatever, it's discipleship first, basketball second. And I tell a story about watching a kid, um, get fouled in a game. And the other person was like, that wasn't a foul. And one of the other teammates came up to him and said, it was. You can't do that. And in many ways, that's what we do, right? Like you said, you can kind of screw up and not get fired. Like you can try to make a layup or move certain way in tennis or basketball or soccer or whatever. If you mess up, you know what you did wrong. Now you can fix it and go back.
Yeah.
And that's the type of discipleship that we have in life. Is like, okay, well, maybe I said that wrong. Next time I won't say it that way. I'll be a little bit more sensitive or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and that, that's part of the reason why the Marketplace mission trip has always been kind of a fun thing for me. This idea actually came out of a couple of people's suggestions, but I've always wanted to do my screw ups in gear. I make a lot of mistakes just by being passive. And so I can at least avoid those by just continuing to keep moving, keep trying things. And so at least eliminate the error of passivity or reduce the likelihood of it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you still actively coaching and involved with youth?
Yeah, so we just finished up. I had about 85 to 100 boys and girls involved in 8. It was like 10 teams that went out, and they do 3 months of AAU basketball. It starts in January, basically. Yeah, January and February is basketball upward, all here at the local church. But then I started to run a program with about 8, depending on the year, 8 to 15 teams. And we travel the Pennsylvania, New Jersey market to do AAU basketball. And so that just ended. So this is a little bit of a hiatus, but I will actually head up to the camp up at Northern Frontier here on Saturday for a week. I do all of their like alumni ambassadorship stuff. And so we connect with men that are usually alumni, sometimes parents of kids that are coming to the camp, and we'll do some work projects during the week while camp is in session as the first week. So I'm still active. And even tonight, if there was a video or a picture I could show you, I do VBS for 5th and 6th graders. They ask me to do it every year. And so I keep doing it and keep going back with crazy fun stuff for those kids. So
Very cool.
I don't know.
Hey, I'm
Just a
glad.
couple of things.
Yeah, I love it, especially because God energizes different people for different things. So I'm grateful.
Sometimes
I'm sure that a
I
lot
need
of
to say
parents
no. Oh, absolutely. I do sometimes need to say no more, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, that's great. So what's next? What are you doing that you're most excited about?
Wow.
I learned that question from Craig Groeschel, and so I've started using it a lot more.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I do. I think that right now, so I've got 4 kids, like I said. My oldest is 30. She's the one with the 3 boys. And my youngest is 20. I have 2 boys in the middle. That's a girl, also the youngest. And so right now, a lot of the business travel, God has really been opening up doors. So Masterwall, the company I work for, based in Atlanta, Christian ownership and foundation is biblically based on its foundation. And we have been growing really, really well, especially in the Northeast. And so with that growth has come a lot more travel for me. But I've really looked forward to the trips that I'm able to take now that my wife is done raising the children. In many ways, I tell her she can retire. So she comes along with me. Last week was a whole week, Friday to Friday. We went down to Louisville, Kentucky, back to Cincinnati, up to Cleveland, Ohio, and then back home. And so the looking forward to, honestly, is the adventures that I have on the road and, networking with people and seeing people. But now to be able to do that with my wife is absolutely a joy. It's a different kind of adventure. And so it's been really fun to do that and share that part of things with her. Along with that, I will say the next thing of just with the growth that I do have, being able to really, without kids at home, it does allow me to do a little bit more of a focus. Like I don't have to worry about getting home all the time. And so there is a little bit more, I think, a little bit more freedom in where I'm going and how I'm getting there, and then the influence that I'm able to have on people that are around. I try to keep a connection network to where if I'm in an area, like I've told many times, Christy, like even to say, hey, if I'm in Atlanta, I'll try to stop by, and connect with people. So yeah, so that's what I would say I'm kind of looking forward to most.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, actually, Chris has she's launching a Christian chamber there, and she's actually watching or online. Her and Sohail are on here, so thank you both for joining us. If you guys have any questions for Brian, put them in the chat, and we'll pay attention to them there, or we'll try to pay attention to them. So Chris just said hi,
That's
but
great.
I think that's cool. It's and while you can, especially we don't travel that much because it's hard for my wife, even though she'd love to travel more. And I'm just lazy. So to me, traveling is just an inconvenience. But
Drag.
but anyhow, so well, that's very cool. I'm excited for you. That'll be cool because as I think that's one of the things that we step into is we start to control more of our time and our discretionary time, especially. But we also, some of us get more discretionary time because we retire or whatever. But I believe that there's no retiring. You just choose differently. You choose how you spend your time. And
there's a book, I know one of the conferences I went to, it was like a great day. I saw this book. It was called Retiring Retirement. And the whole aspect of like, we're not called to retire. There is no such thing as that. And life might look different for a lot of people, but, and I really enjoy the network aspect of wherever I go in the country, being able to connect with somebody and just seeing who they are. And I always looked at it as Paul or Peter or any of the disciples, as the gospel spread, they didn't have phones. So they just showed up. So some people think it's a little weird and creepy, but sometimes I don't call beforehand. I just show up and knock on the door, and there I am. So,
well, that's very cool. They actually, the Faith at Work, there's a big Faith at Work conference that will be next summer in Cincinnati, and there's an activity going on next month in Cincinnati. Some of the same people are behind it. There's a ministry there called At Work on Purpose, and some friends of that ministry who have joined with us to do some things. And so Cincinnati is one of those places. We have members in Lancaster. We have Deb Brown Marr and Tammy Burke are both in the Lancaster Mount Joy area, and so it's just a small world. To me, it's cool.
It is. And I'll have to do that. I mean, that's where, the Faith at Work stuff that's gone on. And years ago, there was a journal, I still have them all, called Life at Work Journal, that eventually, I think John Maxwell bought the company. And Stephen Graves is one of the authors that was there. Sean Womack was another one. And I've kind of connected with them quite a bit here and there. But they had the journal Life at Work that really was impactful. And they even had a story on the back end of 6 of the journals called Starting at Work. And it was a man's struggle through building his business and balance of life. And I still think that stuff resonates today. But we really haven't gotten, I think, a grasp of the blue collar. Go back to your original question, if you don't mind, to saying, how did I like the mission trip? I think it really brings to light more of the worker aspect of mission, as opposed to, not that there's anything wrong with this, the ownership aspect of mission of a business. Like if I own a business, sure, I'm providing for people, but what about the people that are there? How do we who work for an owner live out that faith, whether it's a Christian business or not? And there's not a lot out there for that. There's really not. So,
Exactly. Yeah, so I don't know if you've even heard this part of my story, but the first 10 years, I became a Christian in 1987, and I was already in the work world. And the first 10 years of my faith journey, I was just had this growing frustration with the church because I always had to leave work to do anything. And the book Halftime came out in the late 90s, and I read that book. But I was just came away from it disappointed because Bob Buford got to do a lot of what he did because he owned a cable company and he sold it. I didn't have a cable company to sell. And so
yeah,
almost all of Follower One came out of the fact that those were not things I could do. I couldn't do those things. And so, yeah, that's why we're the way we are. My dream is that every company has 3 or 4 or 5 or more Christians who are ministering to the people there.
yeah,
And, that's a ministry, as you know, just it's your customers. It's also your coworkers. And, because there are
yeah.
people involved. I'm sure you get involved with the logistics people or the supply people or any of those things, right? You're working with people in the company and out, right?
All day long, all day long. And I think that when you realize, you know, that you are going to be looked at, you're going to be asked those questions, and people are going to question those around you, and they're going to come to you if they start to trust you, and they're going to ask you like, hey, what do you think about this? He said blah, whatever, do you think that's real, or do you think that's true? And so it is, it's about a matter of honesty, integrity, and openness, and trust, and the way that you build that trust. And it is definitely a thing that I don't think we realize enough, that like you said, I like how you said it too, like I couldn't do it. Like I had to leave work early to go do things. And so what we have is an opportunity to say, no, like work, it sounds crazy, but sometimes we have to realize work is not the most important thing.
That's right.
It's like, it's part of us, but it is not my identity. My wife, oh man, I told you my wife was traveling with me recently, and about a year ago when she started, we were driving home. We're not far from our house, and she says, I hang up the phone, whoever it was, and she says, man, you really don't have a job. And I was like, what do you mean I don't have a job? She says, you have a way of life. And it was because it was like a phone call about basketball, a phone call about school board, a phone call about work, and then something else. And so it was like all these things at once, and you're changing what you have to say and who you're saying things to. And it's just, it's life. That's all that it is. And work is a piece of that. And my wife is a piece of that. And my kids are a piece of that. And so, but life in Christ is all that it is about. That's it. So.
No, I think that's a great example. It's one of those, that's one of those things I actually have a little challenge with. I'm a turn it on, turn it off guy. I grew up in a family where the dad went away and provided, and everybody else did stuff for dad when he came home, right? So those were the jokes. But the world doesn't operate like that. I've been struggling with the fact that my family was never organized quite like that. I would go away to work, but I was also on duty as a parent, right?
Yeah.
There's stuff to do.
There is always something to do. And that's why I say sometimes you have to be able to say no. And recently, as I was reading where Jesus with the water into wine thing, and yeah, he does it, but it's still, if you look at that little piece of interaction with him and his mom, it wasn't the right time. Like, what are you asking me to do? Like, this isn't the right time, or Lazarus, it was like timing. One of my bosses, I have multiple bosses at company that I work for, Masterwall, but Dave is one of my bosses. And if I've learned anything from him the last year and a half, it has been timing. Timing is so critical to how we do things, when we do things, who do we say things to. And as much as that's true in business, it is so true in the gospel when we share
Mhm.
it and who we share it with and how we share it. So that's
Yeah.
one thing I've really learned a lot.
Yeah. No, that's one thing I felt like I always learned the hard way. Um, I, I was not schooled in a lot of etiquette things growing up. I was too arrogant to listen to people. And so I had to make a lot of mistakes the hard way.
No, I still may not be that etiquette. I can tell you that much, Mike. A lot of
Uh-huh.
people, I call it like it is. I don't have time. I'm 52 now, but when I turned 50, I really kind of had this aspect of like, I don't have time to waste and beat around the bush anymore. I'm an open book. I've got too many I don't have any skeletons in my closet anymore to even like worry about. So it's like, here's just the way it is. There it is.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well, unfortunately the time goes faster. So
it
I
does.
can warn you about that. But yes, 50 was a landmark year for me too. That was the year I first became a grandfather. So, well, I was age
Wow,
50
that's
as well.
awesome. Wow,
Well, brother, this has been fun. I'm excited.
absolutely.
I want to encourage members of our community, if you're listening to this on replay, to connect with Brian. Make sure that he lets you know when he's going to be in your neighborhood.
You got it.
Although I'm
That's
not too
right.
sure you'll be in Pakistan anytime soon. That's where Sohail is. Um,
Okay. I'll
but
come visit. I don't mind.
yeah, I think it's I think it's cool how God is working, and this is all part of it. We get to have a little bit of a friendship, even though we're not anywhere. We're not even in the same time zone, and
That's
the
right.
Lord
That's right.
works it out. And
Well, and I think I know we may not have a lot of time, but I'll share this too. Like
go
it
ahead, we
was
got
really
plenty.
the Paul. I called it the Paul effect. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but like you just said, the aspect of time and separation of space. And I always felt growing up that like I can't call Mike anymore. I haven't talked to Mike in 10 years, right? Um, but as I get older, and I wish people had told me this, and that's why I share it, because it's okay. You can pick right back up where you left off 20 years ago. They're literally, so when my territory grew to Indiana, there's a friend that was in Indiana. I hadn't seen this guy in 25 years. I probably hadn't talked to him in 20 years.
Yeah,
And I knew he was there. And of course, you have to do some digging for addresses and phone numbers and whatever. But I did. I just showed up. And it was like we picked right back up when you left where you left off.
yeah,
And so it's one of those things like you should never be worried about what the time difference is, because the one thing we have in common is the most important thing that we can springboard to anything, and that's Jesus Christ and who he is in our life. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you like the New York Giants or not. I mean, I might think you're wrong, but it's okay. And so that's why for me, I look at it as like it's just an opportunity to connect with people after years of not seeing them. And it really is kind of wild when you start to hear about
yeah.
what's the journey been like.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I just reconnected with a couple of old friends I hadn't seen in a long time. In the last several months, I guess three of them. And so it's that is what's cool about the technology makes it easier for us to do that too. It's
Yeah,
most of us, I try to connect with people on LinkedIn because it keeps me in touch with them. They keep their LinkedIn profile reasonably current, then I can stay
yeah,
connected with them.
yeah,
And it's really
absolutely.
cool. Well, I'm excited, brother. I'm grateful to be a brother in Christ with you and grateful for your
Absolutely.
thoughts and ideas on Follower of One and for sharing this time with us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Well, man, thank you very much. And for everyone listening to the replay of this, we have another mission trip starting in a couple of weeks, July the 13th. I think it's about 4 weeks away. So this is kind of our slower time of the year. In summer, everything kind of changes. But if you haven't been on a marketplace mission trip or you want to get sharp again, join us on the marketplace mission trip that begins on July the 13th. And Chris is also saying that we have Meet Follower of One slots open. We love introducing people to members of Follower of One. So if you can get someplace that isn't that difficult, is it, Brian? If you can get someplace and get connected to the live stream, then we'll get you on here.
Absolutely.
Like I said,
yeah, go join a mission trip.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian, very much for being a part of this. I'm grateful for you and grateful for you taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Anytime. Have a great rest of the day.
Yep, you too. See you everyone later.
Bye.